Joe presents TKO, together with 32 Red.
Hello and welcome to round 25 of TKO on Joe, together with 32 Red. If you're listening on the audio, we're a podcast you can download, and on YouTube with you every single Thursday. Now this week, Carl, as you know, has landed in Philadelphia ahead of his fight on August the 10th. And in the meanwhile, I've got super sub. Okay, former Southern area, British, two-time European, Commonwealth, and world middleweight champion, Darren Barker. I sort of forget all that you've achieved, because when we work together, you're just Darren, and you've been retired, 5 years?
I'm just a Wally, aren't I?
Just a nice
just
man.
A Wally.
Just a very nice man.
Thank you, mate.
But what's nice, I mean, we work, for those people who maybe watch the Matchroom build-up shows on Sky, we work together sometimes 5-6 live shows every month for Matchroom. But the one thing we've never done is sit down and just hash out, like, the finer details of your career and go over some your memories.
We've never done it on ours, have we? Ever?
No,
never
because we're always previewing the fights, aren't we? So it's quite nice to be able to sort of get stuck in and ask you a few questions about the past.
Excuse the attire, by the way. I've just been down the gym, so I've got a pair of sliders on.
No, to be honest,
they almost look like pyjama shorts.
Yeah, but it's
all right. And a t-shirt. I just thought.
I think with the weather today, was it 36 today?
Something like that.
It's mental weather.
So,
I ruined I had to change a t-shirt just for the journey up here.
Sweating.
Yeah, horrible. So, no, you're forgiven, mate. So, I think we should start just by talking about Saturday night, because obviously it was the first time you've been in a corner for a fighter. You formed a great bond with Dave Allen, and you know he was looking so good in the gym, and you've seen what he can do, but he obviously just wasn't able to put that into action on Saturday night. Firstly, how is he doing, and just talk me through the experience of Saturday.
Do you know what? He's okay. His pride's been dented. Anyone who's lost the fight will know how you feel, and he's just gutted. You know, and I'm gutted for him as well, because I know how good he is. I know how much hard work he's put in, but he didn't get the opportunity to show that on Saturday. He just, you know, look, the heavyweight division is the only division in boxing where you can find someone who's 9 kilograms heavier than you, or 6, or any weight. You know, there's no limit. And Dave though he got beat by the better man, no doubt. David Price rolled back the years there, and he boxed brilliantly. But he was just outsized as well by David Price, and we knew that in the build-up. We knew it was going to be difficult to get that to David Price, but I was very impressed with how fit David was, and how he managed to brush aside all those comments about him falling to pieces after 5 rounds. He was in there, and don't get me wrong, Dave didn't really stamp his authority in any way whatsoever. I didn't really force the pace like I wanted him to do, but David Price still looked fresh as a daisy going into the 10th round. And yeah, I'm gutted. I'm gutted for Dave. Like I said, I've said it before in the build-up. What I've been seeing in the gym with David Allen, put the conditioning aside, he was fit as a fiddle, but he's a very good boxer. You know, watch him on the bag, on the pads, shadow boxing. He can move, he can go through the gears, he's quick, he can punch, but he just didn't show any of that on Saturday. And it worries me a little bit, because there is such thing in boxing as someone who is called a gym fighter. Someone who looks, like I say, $1 million in the gym. But when that bell goes and they're under them lights, for whatever reason, it just don't happen. But again, I can't say that he's a gym fighter, because of, like I said before, David Price's size and how well he boxes. So it's very difficult. There's a lot of things to think about or to put into the equation. But yeah, I'm just gutted for Dave. Like he's one of my good mates through this whole process of training him. I've got very close to him. He's very funny, as you well know. Spending time with him on these shows we do. But
he brings a great energy to fight.
Yeah, and do you know what? He's a good man. He's a good lad. You know, his banter sometimes a little bit crosses the line, but he's a good bloke. Yeah. He's a good bloke, and I'm gutted for him. But I'm over the moon that he's healthy. He's okay. He's he's not permanently damaged from it. And there was an hour where I was very worried, mate.
So just talk me through what happened. So he was stretchered out.
What worried me was what happened when he was sat down after the bell. So I called the fight off. He sat down, and he was going whoa. Like his head was spinning, and he had a headache, and he could see 5 of everybody. Received oxygen. And what it was worrying is his eyes started sagging, and he sort of like, he didn't at any point lose consciousness, but it looked as if he was about to go a couple of times. Then we tried to stand him up, and his legs totally gave way. And it was more exhaustion, I think, than the shots, I think. But so at that point, the ambulance were on its way, the stretcher was on its way, so we laid him down. We got him on the stretcher, but then there was another thing that happened. His arm fell off, and he struggled to get his arm back up, and I was really worried. So they wheeled him off. When we got to near where the ambulance was, there was a doorway. So I don't know who it was, but someone said, I don't think it was anyone who was going in the ambulance. I think it was someone part of the Matchroom security team. Is there any blood relation here? Sister put her hand up. Right, off you go. So they went through a door, and we had no idea. Found out what hospital it was, drove there, and there was about an hour of uncertainty where we didn't know how he was, what was going on. And I was asked to go in by the doctor. I was in a panic with little Danny Morell. And we walked in, and Dave was there with a brace round his neck. And he just looked at us and smiled. And it was just
such a relief.
Such a relief. And, it was just a huge... it just put everything in perspective. I was saying to you the other day on the phone when I've had this sort of realisation. And it made me realise that it's only a sport. At the end of the day, he's lost. I'm gutted for him. But I was just so happy that he was healthy. He was there. He was still with us. And we've seen the shock news.
With Maxim Dadashev.
Exactly. Yeah. And it just shows you this sport is unforgiving. If we
were saying as well yesterday, weren't we, that when you have a chin as good as Dave's, or you got a heart as big as Tommy Coyle's, you can sometimes mix it with guys that you maybe shouldn't be mixing it with for a little bit longer than perhaps you would if you, say, didn't have a steel set of balls or a good chin. Problem with that is, in terms of your longevity and your health in later life, those are the extra rounds where things can happen and the damage can be done. And I say, you're absolutely right. Given what happened to you Saturday night, given the news yesterday, it's another reminder. And we sort of, even though you've been in the game for so long, those reminders sometimes pierce through the bubble, don't they? Make you go, life's too short. So I can remember ringing you actually about 2 months ago for a laugh. I said, if Golovkin rang you up now and was like, Darren, I give you £1 million for 2 weeks sparring, but you actually went quite serious on me, and you said, no, do you know what? Sometimes I look at myself and I think I don't want to take any more shots to the head. Or anything.
I still pinch myself now. What I put my body through was borderline madness, borderline. Well, it was dangerous.
It wasn't borderline. It was over. Yeah,
it was dangerous. Yeah. It was dangerous. Don't get me wrong. I'm from an old school era. I guess the last of it probably. My old amateur club Repton, and when I first joined Repton, and it was just the time. Yeah. You didn't drink during sessions. I think the tap might have been disconnected.
Tony turned the water off.
Tony Burns, a legend of a man, MBE. You just weren't allowed to drink. It was crazy. And my approach to losing weight was quite old school. I did it. I felt strong, but it was dangerous. I'm losing 9 kilos near the end of my career to get down to the weight. And I pinched myself thinking, I'm so lucky that I'll reverse it. One, I'm healthy and I'm strong, and though I've got granddad hips and I'm not the brightest spark out there, I'm still here. I've got 3 beautiful children, I've got a lovely life, and I pinch myself and I count my blessings, because it's a dangerous, dangerous sport.
I would genuinely say, and it's not just because I know you, but of all the fighters of the last 10 or 15 years in Britain that have retired, you've made the transition as well as anybody. You look at Carl Froch, made a very nice transition as well. Do you think that transition would have been more difficult? Let's say Daniel Gill had got the nod in Atlantic City and you never quite achieved that world title. Would it have then been hard to have hung them up? Did that give you closure? Yeah,
I think so. It's a good question. It is. Without a shadow of a doubt, it would have been very difficult. Knowing I was that close twice and not being able to fulfil my dream and my brother's dream that I'm sure we'll get onto. We shared a dream of one of us winning a world title, or both winning world titles, just being a world champion, or there being a world champion in the Barker household. And being that close would have been a tough pill to swallow. And also the way the fight went was perfect. You know, it's a dramatic kind of story, and I kid you not, this is no rubbish. When I was a kid, like boxing, I'm obsessed with boxing. As a kid, I was obsessed with it. My dad was an ABA champion. I wanted to make him proud. I would, on my own, be in the kitchen. We had a small little semi-detached house. I would be in the kitchen. I'd even put my gloves on, and I would play out as an 8-year-old, 9-year-old, play out my ideal scenario of winning a world title, you know, or winning these titles. I would go through my career. I would go through, an amateur career, a professional career, winning different belts, you know, and playing out the manner of victory. And the way I'd win the world title was in a dramatic fashion. It was never like a quick knockout win. It was always like, I went down, I got up, I went down numerous times, he put him down. And so yeah, going back to the question, it makes retiring. I'm complete.
Yeah.
I'm at peace with boxing. I've succeeded. You know, I completed boxing.
Yeah.
If it was a computer game, I completed it.
Yeah, of course. So take me back to Repton. Take me back to you and your brother when you first went into the gym. Did you both go there at the same time?
So what happened was my dad, like I say, was an ABA champion, boxed for Repton Boxing Club, but being from Barnet, the local boxing club was Finchley Amateur Boxing Club, which was run by Spencer Oliver's dad and uncle and family, so Jimmy Oliver, John Oliver. Because my dad boxed, I don't think he ever wanted to push me into it. I would spar with my dad. My earliest memories of being on my 2 feet are sparring with my dad in the kitchen. Him on his knees, me with his hands up, and I'm just pummeling him. They're my earliest memories. So boxing was always in my life. My dad always spoke about it. I remember always watching boxing as a kid, but I basically took myself to the gym. So I went down Finchley and just fell in love with it. Fell in love with everything. I think initially I did it for my dad, though he didn't really know that, but it was to make him proud. And went down to Finchley Amateur Boxing Club, and I went on for a while, and then my brother started showing an interest in it. My brother was a real jock, good at everything, absolutely good, good at everything, amazing at everything. And all we did all day long was play football. And he could have been a real good footballer. And I kind of liked the limelight, if I'm honest, of me being the boxer.
Yeah.
And when my brother showed interest in it, I was a little bit, stick to football. I'm the boxer. I said, let me have this bit of glory.
You go play for Chelsea, I'll win more titles.
Yeah. So if I'm deadly honest, I wanted to be the boxer. I was the eldest, so I wanted to sort of carry that flag.
How many years are between you?
I think there was about 6 years, something like that. Yeah, so...
Same as me and mine.
No, less than that. About 5 years.
Right.
Just nearly 5 years. And he was just... So my brother... So I'm the eldest. My brother Lee, Gary, my sister Daisy. So Lee was football, no interest in boxing whatsoever. Always smiling, my brother Lee. Like, no interest for that combat side, side of sport. Whereas me and Gary were quite similar. And my sister, we all had different personalities, but me and Gary were quite fiery, quite competitive, and sort of shied, pushing him away from boxing. But as soon as he come down the gym, it was so obvious that he was naturally talented at boxing. It was like ridiculous, I don't want people to think I go on about my brother or rave about him in this manner because what's happened, but I kid you not, and his resume says it.
A lot of people say this as well. Yeah,
like what he achieved in his 19 years was amazing. But from the off, you could see he was a real talent. Like, he was bashing kids up down at Finchley, but never had a fight there. So I got to a stage in my amateur career where I lost 3 or 4 on the spin, more due to maturity. I think I showed an element of talent, but nowhere near on the spectrum of my brother. So maturity done me. I was a very late maturer, so I used to get beat by very strong kids. Lost 3 or 4 on the spin. I think it was 3. I didn't tell anyone. I thought, right, I need to make a change now. I need to better my education. No disrespect to Finchley, but I'd sort of learned what I could there. And knowing my dad boxed at Repton probably being the most famous amateur boxing club in the country, without a doubt one of the most successful Olympians, gold medalists, obviously, all the Harrison Commonwealth Games representatives and blah, blah, blah. I thought, right, I'm going to go down there. And at which point my brother hadn't even had a fight. He was still just sort of in the gym, sussing out, dipping his toes in it. So I went down there, and the rest was history. Joined Repton, at which time my brother did as well. So my brother went down there. Shortly after me, he still hadn't, I don't know if it was the age thing or what, I can't really remember now, it's a bit hazy, but when he was old enough, he went down there, and it was like, the bond was, we were very close anyway. Me and my family are so close, I think but me and my brother just like bang, like that, because in boxing it's so lonely, it's so hard doing it on your own. It's an individual sport, so if you've got any mates or any family members that can relate to it or can be there with you during these tough times, it was great. So me and my brother bounced off each other. We used to go down on the train from High Barnet to Bank, get on the Central Line, 2 stops, Bethnal Green, walk. Probably it's about a brisk 15 minutes or a nice 20-minute walk to down Bethnal Green Road, down Valence Road, Cheshire Street, bang. And
you're like a few minutes from your call, aren't you?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I remember the first time going out to ask a few cab drivers because I didn't know where it was.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've just get back and forth. Most days I was senior, so Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Gary was Tuesday and Thursday, but we'd just go pretty much every day. So we're Bethnal Green every single day. And he was ridiculous. He won the lot, mate.
Because Tony Burns said that because there's so many boxers in that gym and such a wealth of talent in the East End. That's what he always attributed his success to. He always says one of the main attributes the Repton has is the people in the area and the talent that's kind of born in that area. Yeah. And so you had hundreds of lads going through those halls. And obviously you feel that history with all like the faded fight posters and the no.
Have you been down there?
Loads of times, yeah.
Right, so like the big. For those listening.
There.
Have you really?
Yeah.
So there's a big sort of wall of fame, if you like. It says everyone who's represented England. So you win an ABA title, and if fingers crossed, or if you've ever you catch the eye of the England selectors, you get to represent your country. So you're on the wall. There's a picture of you on the wall, and that was something me and my brother had a real passion to want to do, is get on that wall, because our dad was on there. He represented England. And he was on the wall, so we were desperate to get on there, and we both did. So it was my dad, me, and Gary. But going back to the talent down there, like you're right, but Tony used to say, he goes, in this area of East London, you either kicked a football or you punched someone.
Yeah.
And that was it. Though we weren't from East London, we it become almost like a second home to us, because, and that rubbed off on us. You're in there with real street kids, hard kids, and I think one thing with Repton though, it has an unorthodox way of coaching you, in the sense that it is more of the quality fighters down there rub off on you. So you're in the ring rubbing shoulders with national champions. So I used to get beat up every single week. Every week. So I'll get bashed up by Joe Bloggs. Then I start, as weeks go on, I start getting the better of him. I move up a level. Get battered for weeks and weeks and weeks. It might be a little bit more difficult to break through that level. Then I'll start getting on top, beating them up. Then the next one, and the next one, and the next one, and the next one. Before you knew it, I was the best in the club. And it was like, I couldn't believe it. It's a dream come true.
Wow. So at this point, obviously, there's no EIS in Sheffield. There's no sort of national lottery funded amateur system as such as it is now.
Yeah.
So how did you go, because you never won the ABAs.
No.
So how did you go from kind of boxing on the local circuits and then getting your England vest to then actually graduating to being picked for England in 2002?
Right. So I won the NABC Class C title. So that's, I think, ranges from 17 to 19, something like that. It's sort of youth age now. So that was my first national title. I won at the London Hilton Hotel, Park Lane. So won the NABC title, over the moon. Could have retired there and then. I was national champion. My age and weight.
Good job you didn't, mate.
I was buzzing. Yeah. But honestly, it was a dream come true. And part of that journey where I used to shadowbox in the kitchen, that was one step on that, that ladder. So, I was on my way. But ultimately over the moon. So won that title. Then the following year, I entered the AVAs at 18, and I got all the way to semi-finals, which were over a weekend in Liverpool. Won the quarterfinals against a very good seasoned fighter called Terry Fletcher, who was an England representative. I beat him. Then I got beat by a really experienced fighter called Tristan Davis, I think his name is. I lost on a countback. So a countback is if the scores are level on the old computer scoring, it would go down to the judges that press the button most for the fight. I think that's how it worked.
That's how Joshua won 2012.
Exactly, yeah. So he got the nod. So I was so close to getting to the final. The England selectors took a punt on me and gave me the opportunity to represent England in a real tough multi-nations tournament in Hungary. A place called Repton or something like that it was called, but it was a tough one, real tough one, full of Eastern Europeans, the top nations.
The qualifiers are always so grim for international competitions.
Oh, because of that, we've got the toughest pool of fighters.
Yeah.
So I went to this multi-nations. I remember no one could sort of afford to go, so I went on my own with the England team because everyone would go and watch me. All my family would go, well, all the lads anyway. Won the first fight. I remember saying to my dad, I'm fighting a Belarusian a Hungarian in the first fight, and he goes, "Oh, blimey, a mess, an absolute mess on the phone." Rang him back an hour later. Dad, I won a fight. I remember him screaming down the phone, "Yes, get in! You won a fight for England. You represent the country. You won a fight. Amazing." Next fight fought. I can't remember who it was, if I'm deadly honest. Won that. And again, screaming, shouting. Then in the final, I had 3 fights. The final, I had a guy called Yuri Romanov who beat Bobby Vanzi, Steve Murray, in the pros. Real good fighter for Belarus. Was a big favourite to win it. And I beat him. And I remember ringing my dad, I won the gold medal. Crazy. My first international, first multi-nations, winning a gold medal. 3 fights, 3 wins for England, gold medal. Rang my dad and no noise, nothing. And he just went, "Damn, I'm so proud of you, mate."
Oh.
And then I remember getting picked up by all the family limousines, went to town. They went to town, I had the worst hangover ever because honestly, I was 18 years old and all the England, other lads in the England team were buying me drinks. I think it was like 60p a beer then. I didn't really drink, I only started drinking when I was 18, but very, little because I was obsessed with boxing. I remember getting steaming and getting picked up at the airport, and they had a bottle of champagne. I think I was sick out the window at the sight of the bottle of champagne. But then it was a toss-up then between me. Oh, right, so sorry. Actually, I'll lead into it. It was a toss-up between the Commonwealth Games 2002 were upon us. Lenny Dawes had just won the ABA title and represented England a few times before.
About him,
So he'd won the ABA, represented England a few times. I just got to semis of the ABA, but won a gold medal in a real tough tournament, 3 fights. I'm going to say probably Lenny Dawes deserved it, if I'm honest, the shot of going to Commonwealth Games. But because of Tony Burns' influence in the England team, because he's well respected, I can't be sure, but I think he'd helped me get the nod for the Commonwealth Games. Again, that was amazing. So I've gone from getting a sort of a sports grant from Sport England, like 100 quid here and there. It was sort of very vague. There was nothing set in stone, but I used to get little bits of money, buy a bit of kit, and then selected for the Commonwealth Games, a major tournament, home games as well. To the England team sitting us down and saying, look, everyone who's been selected will be put on, I think it was like category C funding. So everyone gets £750 a month.
That's a lot of money.
I'm 18 years old, getting $750, doing what I love. And it wasn't the same as it is now. I might get a letter now and again say, come to Crystal Palace, you've got to do a training camp, blah, blah, blah. So they said to us, look, you're all on this money, 750 quid a month. The camp the build up to the Commonwealth Games was really, they was on it. They sent us to Austria, then we went to Peterlee up north, then we had a camp in Manchester, London, the Games.
Wow.
So it was full on. It might have been London and Manchester, obviously. It was full on. But they said, look, there's your money. If you win a medal, if you don't win a medal, we'll reevaluate your funding. If you win a medal, you'll stay on that category C or whatever it was. If you win a gold, you'll go up one.
Let's fast forward. So, 2 weeks later, you are sat on the bench. I want you to picture this in your head. So you've beaten Paul McCloskey by this point.
Yeah.
3 other fighters. So 3 African fighters.
It was Paul McCloskey, a guy from Jamaica, a Ghanaian.
Ugandan.
Well, what happened was, just quickly, I was in the semi-finals supposed to fight a Nigerian.
Did you have a walkover?
Yeah, I had a walkover to the final. He broke his leg in a Commonwealth village playing football. So I've gone to the weigh-in for my semi-final bout, and they've gone, I think you got a walkover. I'm like, what?
What did you feel?
Buzzing. I've gone from a bronze to silver without having to fight. I didn't care. I wasn't bothered. I'm not going to lie and say, I wanted to win that.
No.
Didn't care.
Well, it's a grueling, like 5 fights.
Yeah,
in 7
having
days.
to maintain that weight for so long in a village, Commonwealth village, where there's food on tap.
So essentially, and you've got 2 more days or a day extra rest.
So you
as
can't
well.
really celebrate a victory.
So did you watch your opponent's bout? Did you go and watch that?
Well, there's one I watched. I watched after Paul McCloskey. I didn't watch the Jamaican one. Beat him. Then, as I beat the Jamaican, I got out and watched the Ghanaian fight a guy from New Zealand. He knocked this Kiwi spark out.
Yeah.
Let me tell you now, it was one of the worst knockouts I've ever seen, and I knew how to fight him next. Beat him, though, quite handily, if I'm honest, quite convincingly. So I'm guaranteed a bronze. Walkover final against the Ugandan. He was the flag bearer for the whole nation.
So you're sat there. Talk me through the hour before that fight. Where are you sat? Who's in your changing room? What are you feeling?
Well, I remember getting to the venue, right? What's it called now? But it was the MEN. Used to be called the Manchester Arena.
Manchester Arena.
Yeah, so it's the MEN. And I remember getting there, saying hello to my family. Mixed emotions, really. Sort of content in some ways. Like, worst case scenario, I've got a silver medal. Whereas I wasn't touted to do anything in this competition. I was the real wild card. So I've got a silver. Worst case, buzzing. But being super competitive, that close. So I'm nervous. I'm how I wasn't over nervous. I wasn't, I was same as, I guess. Same as, I was quite relaxed. By this point, I've had six fights for England, kind of gaining a lot of experience, doing all right. But I remember Tony Burns coming up to me in the sort of foyer area, or one of the corridors in the main arena. Tony Burns come up to me and, Barker, he's always never called me Darren in his whole life. Barker, over here, Barker. So he walks over and goes, I've just had Harry Lawson on the phone. And Harry Lawson was a former fighter for Repton who'd represented England plenty of times. I think he's actually on the wall representing Scotland. But anyway, a very good fighter. Got to the final of the Commonwealth Games and lost. And whether Tony Burns did or not, I don't know. But this is where he was so magical and special what he'd done. I just got off the phone to Harry Lawson. He's just said, tell Darren to give it everything in the ring. Leave it all in there, because it still hurts me to this day that I didn't win the gold medal, to make sure Barker doesn't have them same regrets. And it was powerful. And he went, look, over to you now, basically. And it was powerful. I remember thinking, right, I want to give this everything. I don't want them regrets in 20 years' time myself. I remember going back to the change room, and do you know what? I used to always get nervous, but no more than usual, until they take you out of this little pen. Honestly, it's like a little pen. You must have seen loads of these amateurs, like when they keep the boxes. You don't have much, no luxury of space. No. Taken out, and a big tent, big curtain. Gone like that, and I've seen a banged out, pretty much, other than this one section banged out MEM Stadium. There'd been a few attempts at the final and a few silver medals for England that hadn't won. So I've come out and I'm bricking it.
What could you hear?
Just it was no chance of my name. Because no one, I guess in the pros you build a profile, don't you? And everyone gets to know you. In the amateurs, they're celebrating, or
it's England that they're supporting. Yeah.
They're supporting England. So I'm essentially the flag. I'm the St George's flag. I'm England. And it was just a roar. I didn't care, who I was, but the support was incredible. It was amazing. I got on the fight, and it was, to be honest, a trickier fight than I expected. And I won by, I don't know, whatever it was, 2, 3, 4 points. I think it was 116, 117, 113, or something like that. But I'd won the gold. I remember collapsing to my knees and going on the podium and holding the flowers. Crazy, all things that you've seen on telly. It wasn't the Olympics, but you've seen all of these games. I grew up watching athletics with my mum and dad. Well, my mum loved it. And I see her in the crowd. She come right up to the front. She come up to the podium, and she was crying her eyes out. And I'm proper biting my lip, because I nearly went. I could. All I ever wanted to do was make my family proud, and I wanted to see my mum was so proud of me. Right there, dream come true. Like, could have jacked it in for sure after that.
But at the same time, that's one of those milestones that surely gives you a huge amount of self-belief as to where your potential is.
Yeah, it was a weird sort of time, if I'm honest, mate, because at this point I'm 19, slowly becoming a man. I was really immature physically as growing up. 19 years old and thinking, getting to that age where a lot of fighters start jacking it in, meeting women, blah, blah, blah. And I guess I did. It was a bit like that. I started going out and meeting women and blah, blah, blah. And it was a funny stage in my life. And you got to remember, I was so amazed at what I'd been able to achieve. I was, again, content for a while. I remember going to Magaluf and, people in Magaluf recognising me. It was crazy.
Because the BBC broadcast the Commonwealth Games, the Olympics.
So I was in the studio with Sue Barker and, it was nuts. So people recognising me in Magaluf, it was crazy. And I'm thinking, I'll have this. This will do me. But again, as it happened plenty of times in my career, avoid kicking him. There's something missing here. And ended up representing England again. I fought Timothy Bradley at the Hilton. Lost on points. Just wasn't bothered. Weren't interested at the time. I had to take the fight to keep my funding. He beat me, and then just started plodding along and traveling the world as a fighter representing England. It was brilliant. I didn't have no club bouts, no competitions. I literally just was flying around the country. I went Greece, Hungary, I went Poland, I went Bangkok, the 2003 World Championships. Honestly, the list goes on. I was in America. I was just all over the place, travelling the world.
Because you didn't get the nod against Berto at the Worlds.
No.
And I know, he never mentions it, by the way.
Yeah.
But I know that's something that you always look back on and think, that could have been a little bit different, because if you'd have got a medal there, do you think you may have stayed on one more year and tried to go to the Olympics? Well,
I did try. But what happened was, I lost a Berto. Where I honestly, I like to think I'm honest, and the fights I've lost, I put my hands up. But that one, I was convinced I won. Though it was out of my hands, the thing I look back on in the amateurs with a little bit of regret. I wish I won an ABA title, and I wish I'd won that bronze at the Worlds. I would have got beaten the next fight. I was against a Cuban, but still, I would have medalled.
Aragon.
Yeah. He went on to win it. He went on to win it. So it was gutted that I didn't get to share the ring with a Cuban, which I never got to do in the amateurs, which is surprising, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd like to have won that. But then what followed after was that was 2003, 2004 Olympics. So the qualifiers come up. Again, I was so gutted that I didn't get that bronze, and still growing up, still sort of that transition from boy to man, and wasn't that bothered. Certainly weren't bothered about losing the weight. So I won the Commonwealth Games at 63.5, the old 63.5 kilograms. Then the World Championships was 69. middleweight was 75, and do you know what? I was probably walking around at 72. Could have easier got down to 69, but just didn't attempt it. Just wasn't bothered. Probably a little vain. I hated the way I looked when I was down at the weight, and just thought, sod this, I want to compete at middleweight. Tony had spoken to some of the trainers, and they said, look, if he's going to have to be middleweight, we'll still select him. So I went to the first qualifier, which is the European Championships in Croatia. I beat an Italian in my first fight at middleweight quite comfortably. Then come up against Andy Lee, who is a massive middleweight. And
were you teammates at Repton at that point?
Bit of a crossover.
Yeah.
But remember him there. And yeah, he just, again, similar to Dave Allen and David Price.
Yeah.
I just couldn't get near him.
No.
I was trying to be the aggressor, and he boxed to a plan and beat me easy, to be fair. And ultimately went to the Olympics. I had one more attempt. I went to Sweden for where my last ever amateur fights were. Lost in my first fight to you'll be Carol Bowsey or something like that. End up winning the WBO super middleweight world title, but Balausi or something like that. His name was. He beat me, and in my last ever amateur fight, and yeah, I was outclassed on the outclass rules. So do you remember it? If the button was pressed, if you went more than 15 points behind your opponent, they would ring the bell.
Oh yeah.
And I got stopped. I was gutted. I didn't get beat up, but I was just, he was just too big for me, and he just, I could. And that was it. My amateur days were over. I remember having a cry in the changing room after, because I knew that was it. Not that, I was gutted that I could never say I was an Olympian, because I've been to all the 3 major tournaments, European, Commonwealth, Worlds. Didn't get to go to the Olympics. Very close to doing so. And thinking, that's it. My amateur days are over. And that was it. There was only one. I remember there was rumours of me turning pro. Nothing set in stone. Never had any meetings. Just spoke to Tony Sims, who I'd been talking to a year before. Went to the cash point to get some money out, expecting my Sport England money to come in one last time, and it didn't. I was gutted, right, relying on that money. And it didn't come in.
Need that 750 quid.
It weren't. It got up to 1,281 quid. Yeah, so I was getting 1,281 quid for winning that gold medal in the Commonwealth. So I was getting that for like 2 years.
Yeah.
2 years getting 1,281 quid.
Suddenly that void, you've like, well, I've got to find some way of earning.
Yeah. Hence, fast forward to painting and decorating with my dad.
Yeah, and then it all began.
Yeah.
We're going to have to do part 2 of your pro career. My producer Si just said definitely, because I'm so engrossed. I think we've probably done 40 minutes or something.
Yeah. Sorry, I'll talk too much.
No, you don't. It's
about
perfect.
Myself.
But I wanted to do something. That
you did say.
Yeah, like I didn't, because the thing is, your story is, people want to hear about the Martinez fight, the Gill fight. They want to talk about what happened with Gary, and I feel like the problem is that when you do that too many times, it almost becomes rehearsed. And I kind of wanted to sit down and talk to you about stuff that you don't necessarily.
I don't think I've ever spoke to in this sort of depth about the foundations of my career, and that is amateur boxing. Yeah. We've seen it, a number, hundreds, thousands of times. That pedigree catapults you, and it helps you so much.
Yeah.
And huge foundations. Without that pedigree and those experiences in the amateurs, which I've just spoke about, I wouldn't have gone on to do what I did in the pros.
Because you only need to look at the correlation. You look at the list of ABA champions in every weight, and you pick a weight, and you scroll back 50 years. Even as a kind of someone who doesn't follow the sport, you'll go, God, I recognise so many names.
Yeah.
And that's because those foundations are so key.
Exactly.
We see it even today. So we will do part 2. One last question for you before we do our 32-second challenge. Do you ever think about, with Gary, do you ever sort of look back on his life and think, I wonder what he would have gone on to achieve? And do you ever kind of imagine the route he would have taken and where he would be today?
Yeah, I do. And if I'm dead honest, I feel myself welling up a little bit, because that is what hurts me the most.
Yeah.
Not knowing what he would have done, or where he would have gone to, or what he would have achieved. We always talk about what he'd done, and when I think about where he'd have gone, and the for me, life's been so good. I've got to travel the world. I've got to meet so many amazing people. I've got to experience so many great things that people in our position, I'm so fortunate to have been able to do so. And again, I pinch myself and count my blessings, but he never got the opportunity, and that hurts. Not even just the boxing, not him as a boxer, just him as a man.
Yeah.
So that hurts me. That hurts the most when I think about that, is what he's not been able to do in a lifetime, let alone, he's 19 years, just what he's not been able to do, have a family, that just breaks my heart, and it always will do to the day I die, but got to crack on.
You've got to crack on, and I know that you've done everything that you've done with him in your heart, and you've done so much with him in your mind, and you know that everything you've done is shared success with him, and if he's watching, he'll be very proud of you, mate.
Well, I appreciate it. Thanks. That's what I've like I say, genuinely, it's not to drum up some sort of story. Everything was dedicated to him, and if we do part 2, I'll talk more about when I dropped down to my knees and cried my eyes out after the Gill fight, because they're sad tears, if I'm honest, to start with, because I was letting go of my brother. I'd achieved what we set out to do. Yeah.
Well, mate, we have to do part 2, don't we? Now, we can't leave people on that cliffhanger.
Yeah.
So, okay, we'll do part 2.
Go on then. What's these questions, mate?
So this is the 32-second challenge with 32 reds. Bit of word association. I'm just going to read you a list of words, and I want you to say, in the shortest possible way, the first thing that comes into your head. Okay, so this is a 32-second challenge with 32 red with Darren Barker. Finchley ABC.
Learning curve.
John Oliver.
Boxing man.
Commonwealth Games.
Dream come true.
Favourite fighter growing up.
Mike Tyson.
Winning the British title.
Wow.
Boardwalk Hall.
Scary.
Hips.
Ouch.
The Daniel Gill body shot.
Ouch times 2.
Repton.
University.
Commonwealth Games gold medal.
Epic.
Darren Barker, absolute pleasure,
Cheers,
mate.
me old mate.
Absolute pleasure,
Cheers, mate.
Well, I can't tell you what pleasure it's been, mate. It's been lovely, and we look forward to having you again. And obviously, Carl will be here next time, so we'll be able to kind of compare careers and talk about all the journeys.
Yeah, nice one. And if you can hear any racket in the background, that's my 2 kids in there smashing the place to pieces.
Daddy daycare, summer holidays have begun. But outside, she said they've been unbelievably well behaved.
Oh, nice one.
Yeah, now they're just angling for some sweets, mate. That's what it is. Darren Barker, thank you very much.
Mate.
Thank you at home for watching. What a fantastic episode with my old mate Darren Barker. You can catch us again in 7 days' time, and all the build up to Carl Frampton's fight on August the 10th in Philadelphia. This has been round 25 of TKO done and dusted. We'll see you again next week.
You've been watching TKO on Joe, together with 32 Red.